I'm Adam with SWS Mechanical, and we're going to be talking about all the plumbing shutoff valves and how the heat trace works to prevent the plumbing from freezing and anything to do with plumbing. These are insulated P-traps. They have heat trace in them to prevent them from freezing during the winter. The red light indicates that they're working properly. If the red light goes out, you change a fuse inside the box, and then they'll be working right up and ready to go again. So you have the janitorial area. You can use the mop sink to fill up your buckets, and the laundry deep sink to clean out anything else that you need to that's larger than normal. Then we have the water heater, fully electric. You got the ball valve, the recirc pump, another ball valve, so you can, all you have to do is take the 4 screws out if that recirc pump ever goes bad, and you can just change all the inside of it. So since this is a public use restroom and it's 2 handles instead of just 1, it has to have its own third-party tempering valve. And if you come over here, you can actually see that it tells you how to adjust it warmer or colder. We've used a laser temperature readout to make sure that it's continuously 120 degrees. No, and you don't want to go above 120 degrees because you can scold people, so that's actually the code. So you want to be at 120, so you still kill germs and you don't accidentally scold anyone. This is the water main. This valve will shut off the entire building. If this is the backflow prevention, so anything will never be able to go back into the potable water to contaminate it. And if anything ever tries to go back, it'll shoot down here and go into the drain. Then you have these 2 butterfly valves to isolate, so you can do work on the PRVs. If you ever need to work on this PRV, you can isolate it, still run water through here, so everyone still has their water while you're working on this PRV itself. Then if that PRV goes bad, you can always isolate it, and then you still have water going through this to feed the units while you're working on that. So to work on this system, you don't have to shut down everybody's water, essentially. So that is all for this one. Just isolation valves, full shut off to the building, isolation valves for this PRV station, and then isolation valves for that PRV. So these are the high efficiency electric water heaters, no flues, no natural gas, just fully electric. It'll give you a readout in any type of errors. You can set the temperature where you want, and then accept. So this will pretty much tell you anything you need to know just by this touch screen. You got heater status, standby. Hybrid mode is the most efficient mode for multifamily living. It'll actually learn usage of water because it has a processing chip in it. So it'll actually, if people are using water at 7 o'clock in the morning, it'll instantly start heating before 7 o'clock. So it has a memory. So they're at high efficiency. And then here's the shutoffs to them. If you ever need to work on them, you gotta shut this off, and then it has a condensation drain, drains down through to the drain. And then this is the ball valve supply to the water heaters. That shuts off all 3 water heaters. And then there's the recirc pump, and there's a ball valve for the recirc pump, so you can work on the recirc pump without shutting down the whole system as well. Then individually, each water heater has its own isolation valve, so if you only need to work on 1 water heater, the floor is controlled by 3 water heaters, so if you have to work on 1, you still have 2 water heaters working for the customer. So you just say this one has an issue, you'd shut off these isolation valves, and then you'd work on this one, you'd shut off the electricity, work on this one. These 2 are still giving water to the customer, to the homeowner, or to the resident. So, and then, yeah, that's pretty much it with these 2.
Wash, rinse, repeat as you go down.
Yeah, okay. And then, it does have an expansion tank. Obviously, troubleshooting. You could check the pressure in here and make sure it's 35 psi or more. If you ever had an issue, you can try pumping it up first, and then see if that solves your problem as well. But these are pretty, since there's no flues and natural gas, you're not going to have half the amount of issues that you normally would. You don't have to worry about the flue getting clogged up on the roof and then the water heater won't function correctly. You don't have to worry about natural gas getting shut off and then the water heaters won't get up to temperature because there's nothing to burn. And so yeah, so just electric, highly efficient and easy maintenance, user friendly. So.
Okay.
So this is a meter readout for the hot water that's being used electrically. So it'll tell you how much electricity this unit is actually using because they're using the hot water. And it's a meter that tells you. There is, if they need to work on the meter, there's a ball valve right here that'll shut off just the hot side just for this unit. So this is the hot water itself and only the hot water. Every single unit has their own ball valve to supply to shut off each unit with an access panel. It's not silicone. It's right. So most of them will be basically located exactly centered. But yeah, so that's how you shut off the cold water if you ever need to work on the individual unit without affecting any other parts of the building itself. Pretty much all the same type of setup. You got cabinet space with the drain and the water supplies. You have individual shutoffs for each fixture. So each faucet will have its own individual shutoff. This is a handicap accessible shower. So if anyone that does move in that's handicapped, it's already ready. They just have to install the bench and it's ready to go immediately. And then here's the washer box. It's got the valves to turn off are right here. And it has hammer arresters so you don't get any knocking, loud noises from the water shutting off too quick. Individual shutoffs. You have the hammer arrestor for the dishwasher too as well. So because it's a quick opening valve, you won't have any knocking noises because the water hammer arrestor. You have this shuts off the dishwasher, so then you can work on the dishwasher. This shuts off the sink itself, the hot side, and this shuts off the cold side. And then you've the disposals, has a reset button on it underneath, so if it ever starts acting up, press the reset button and troubleshoot it from there. So then here's your soap dispenser. You're going to fill that up with soap, and then every time you need to scour the trash chute, this is where they're going to be dumping their trash. So you're going to want to have this one locked, but have this one accessible to the public. So you'll turn on this valve, and since we're on the top floor, any type of buildup on the sides of the walls, it'll actually scour it and send a detergent down the trash chute itself. So yeah, and this is the source of control for the hot water to clean and scour the garbage chute. So you'll have to ask the trash chute guy which type of detergent he recommends. So, and there it is. It drops all the way down to the bottom. So, and then you have the roof drains. You got the primary and the overflow. And then, if you got water coming out of the primary, out of the side of the building, come up here and look, and maybe there's just quite a bit of leaves or something. Then you'll just twist it off. You'll just twist it off, clean the debris, and then it's ready to go. So yeah, it usually when the secondary is dumping out the side of the building, that means there's an issue with the primary. So that'll let you know that you need to come up here and look and make sure there's no debris clogging the cage. But most of the time the cage will catch all the large pieces that will do major damage to your primary storm drains or primary roof drain system. Great. And then you have all the vents for the units. All the 3-inch PVC is the plumbing. So everything's vented correctly and all that. So here's the hose bib, so you can rinse any debris out of the garage, anywhere you need to go. It just requires a key, and then you can scour it. This is the one that's directly for the garage use. So yeah, and you have a hose bib on all 4 corners, the heat trace, and the fuse box are just up inside a little bit, but it's all the same stuff. It's heat traced, so it cannot freeze. So, and that's pretty much all the plumbing.
Okay, so I'm Chris from AAA Fire. I do the access control systems and cameras. So as far as what can be troubleshot without us being here, you can look at the power supply, whether that green light is on or not. And then if that light is off, it's likely that the power supply, something happened to it. So you can call us from that point. However, if that's on, it's likely not a problem with this. And then each of these individual, we call them cans, has a controller inside of it. If any of these are off, that will also be a problem. They should all have blue blinking lights. And then none of these other lights matter. You don't have to worry about that. So that continues all the way up. Then for cameras, as far as the troubleshooting you can do goes, really all you can do is look at whether these lights are blinking. There's lights beneath each of these ports. And other than that, there's not really much that you can troubleshoot. And then very worst case scenario, if the entire system goes down, check that the power supply is still on. If the power supply is not on, that is very likely our issue. And then that is it. All right. So what you can troubleshoot in the software is you can open up the software. You can click on door. If you're having door that's not locking and you think it might be something to do with this, you can come into the software, and if it is unlocked, you will see in the top right of its icon for the individual door an unlock symbol or a lock symbol in the bottom left if it is locked. Then the doors that are opening, it says that the door itself is open. The door that is broken, it doesn't know whether or not the door is open, but the lock itself is secured. And then to change the state of that, you right click with your mouse. You can click lock door and you can click unlock door. And then from here, there are other things that can be done. However, it gets very complex. So click lock door, you will see that change state. And then all these alarms just mean that the doors have been opened. And then, okay, I can go to cameras real quick for you as well. I don't know what to really briefly troubleshoot on this. So as far as actually troubleshooting cameras, I think the most that he could do is just tell us that the camera's down.
So aside from troubleshooting, is there any maintenance type thing that somebody need to do, come in, make sure that the system's up? Is there a password to log into the system?
Yeah, okay, so as far as password logging into the system, I actually don't know what it's set up as. So this should be constantly up though. So none of this should be closed down at any point. Even if it shuts down, that backup power supply will be up. So then if that does shut down though, that'll be at the worst case scenario where they call us, because everything will need a whole lot of work. Logging into the system, I can't see a situation. So ExactVision is a type of system where it's constantly logged in at the workstation that you're given. So when you boot up the actual PC, which this isn't a PC, it's a server, and then that has all the memory modules and everything. So you boot this up, you are logged into it right here. And then as far as troubleshooting cameras, yeah, like just seeing like video loss, like this one up here, that wire got cut, that's on the 5th floor. You see that, then you're like, okay, something's wrong with our camera. Usually you can call us at that point. And if there's steps that can be ran through, we can do that.
Okay.
I'm ready. My name's Preston. I'm with K2 Electric. Discuss some of the panels and things that you might need to know. This is the elevator disconnect. It will turn power off to the elevator. This here is your lighting control panel. It controls all the lighting, the exterior lighting, garage lighting. It's all controlled off timers. It's supposed to turn on at 7, and turn off at 7. The instructions are in here. It's pretty easy to program. But right now it's just set 7 to 7 on all the lighting. This panel is CH. It does most of your common area receptacles and first floor all the way up, your lighting for their stairwells. Pretty basic. This one is your M panel. This one does pretty much all the heating and air conditioning and ventilation in the building, and also the wall heaters for the storage rooms. Elevator pit power, elevator cab lights, and the exhaust fan on the top of the elevator shaft are also in here. panel is AP. This does a lot of the heat trace in the garage and some power along with some receptacles on the first floor. The important one in here is this circuit 4, which is the fire alarm panel. That one's supposed to stay on at all times, no matter what. This panel is MP. It does all of the water heaters for all the common area in the building. All of them except for this one in this closet right here. Then it also does a couple of future heat trace in the mechanical rooms. This one's panel GP, and it's all car chargers. It's the only thing. All the interior in the garage, and then the one exterior car chargers. So you have some extra conduits here. There's 4 2-inch conduits that go out to the east side of the building. One of them is connecting to this warehouse for KRCL. Then the other 3 are just stubbed right past the sidewalk for future use. The 2 4-inch conduits go out to the north and stop right before the curb for, I believe, telephone, if they ever bring telephone into the building. So all the disconnects for these AC units, along with this one, are a gray box that opens up and has like a plunger that you pull out, and one side is on, and if you 180 it upside down, you can plug it back in, but it'll be off. And it'll be the same with all the units, all the AC units. So these are all the water heaters for the 2nd and 3rd floor. Each water heater has its own disconnect. You pull this handle down, it turns it off. And in order to open this door, you have to turn it off. Kind of a safe feature. There's 6 on this floor. On the 4th, 5th, and 6th, there's only 3 per floor. So this box right here, and one of the panels, that big panel that said heat trace on the very bottom, this was supposed to be a future heat trace. We put a receptacle in there, so there's availability of power, but it is labeled heat trace, and that's what our print's showing it to be. It's kind of a small server room. Most of the stuff is on the 3rd floor, and there's also some on the 5th floor, all to do with internet.
Anything they need to know about circuit breakers that might be in here, or?
Just these 2 down here are 2 dedicated circuits, and they are in the CH panel. So this is a ADA unit. In the ADA units, they have a control here that will control the hood and the fan. So I turn it on. This is different from the other units. The other units will not have that switch or receptacle there. This device here, this is an AFCI GFCI. It is a dedicated circuit. It's the only one that's on this circuit. This switch here is one of the switches that controls the exhaust vent above the stove. When you turn the switch on, it will open up the vent for circulation. This is our one main piece of switch gear. It controls all the panels on the inside of the electrical room. All those smaller panels. Each one of these turns off the different one inside there. This piece of gear is fed from SG1, which is the big piece of gear on this end. These are the meters for all of the building. There's no real maintenance other than just turning off the unit itself on each one. And they're all labeled on which ones. And we started just with the 2nd floor all the way to the 6th floor from left to right. This piece of gear is SG2. It has the 3 main breakers to turn off the 3 meter sections. MC1, MC2, and MC3. This one is SG1. This has the main breaker to shut off the CDP, which feeds all the inside house panels, or the electrical room panels. So on this side, there is a breaker for future use for that future TI or commercial area, that there's no panels or anything like that. There's just conduit running over. But there's one breaker there. And then there's also the other breaker in here for the same purpose, just a future use.
Okay. My name's Dale Pershawn. I'm with Frontier Fire Systems. We installed the fire system here at Diamond Rail. This is the main part of the fire system right here. The one towards the back, this is the wet systems, which there's actually control valves on every floor to isolate per floor. If there's issues, big issues, you can come into this room, close the control valve. Once you close that and you don't have a fire, you can operate this main drain valve. There's two positions on this valve. One says test and one says drain. So test position. So you would rotate this valve 180, and this will drain all the water off the system to keep from flooding the place. If something's broke, at that point you have to have us or somebody come in and repair whatever's broken, and then we can reactivate the system at that point. And that's about all there is on the wet system. The upper floors are exactly like this also. They're located north stairway. They're plainly visible. This is the dry system for the first floor, parking area and retail. These are a little more complicated systems. They have air in them so they don't freeze. If this system trips or something's broken and activated, to shut this system down, same thing, close the control valve first, and then you have a main drain that's off on the left-hand side. You would open this valve. That will start draining the water off. You also have a little prime line valve that you can shut off also, and that will quit running water through the valve that way. It has an air compressor on it. If there's a power failure, this will lose, once it loses so much air, it will send in an alarm that'll show as a low air alarm. If that happens, you want to come in and close the control valve to keep it from tripping and putting water into the system when it's not needed. And at that point, you would have to call to have someone come repair and reset these valves. They're a little complicated for someone that doesn't know what they're doing to reset them. So it's best just to have a contractor come in and get it back in service. And there is a switch to turn off the air compressor. If it does trip, you can turn it off just so it's not running all the time, wearing it out. And that is about everything on this fire system. Okay, we're on the second floor. All these upper floors, the valves are all identical to each other. Same thing, you would close your main control valve, and then you got your test and drain set up again. This valve, you would close your control valve, rotate the handle on this one 180 degrees to drain these systems. And that's about it on these. And usually the only problems you ever see on these systems is when someone breaks a head. Usually with a coat hanger hanging clothes on them. That's all you need to do to shut these down. There is spare sprinkler heads down in the riser room if you want to replace them yourself, or you can call and have someone come in and replace them and put the system back in service. To put the system back in service, you just reverse what you've done. You would close your main drain. The control valve, you just crack it open, 3-4 turns, let it fill real slow so you don't blow the system apart. And once it's filled, you'll hear it when it fills. You'll hear water flowing through and it gradually just comes to a stop. And at that point, you open the control valve back up all the way and you can put your system back in service.
All right, so I'm Garrett Hull, Vice President of Kevin Hull Landscaping. We're here at Diamond Rail Apartments today. We're going to go over the irrigation system, where the water starts at, where the valves are at, and kind of where the clock's at, so we know how to kind of maintain it, what we're looking at. But kind of the gist of it shouldn't be too complicated, but we'll see how it goes. So right here, we'll just start right here. This is where the water source is at. So in this green box, this little circle right here, open that up. There's a stop and waste down in there. That's the main shutoff. You have a water key that'll shut that on and off. That shuts down everything from that point to the rest of the entire property. When that's on, you'll keep that on most of the year. If you ever need to emergency turn off the water, you can just come over here to this backflow. This cage just pops off. Oh, maybe. There we go. Sorry, other ones we have tilt. That one you just got to pull straight off. You just hit this shut off right here, or this one, either one, that shuts it off. Just to that, if you ever have to take off this backflow, it's got action unions. Those just unscrew and this whole piece will come off. So you usually want to take that off in wintertime, because if not, this will crack and break. Be a whole problem when it comes back to springtime. You try to turn water on, you have water everywhere. Stuff will start dying, so there'll be no water going anywhere else. So that's the gist there. This first green box we have right here it's called a physical disconnect down in there. So I don't know if we want to get a shot down in there just to kind of look at it. So what you've got there is right now we're currently connected to the culinary water system. That's going to feed and water everything. They have another one where this shutoff is right here. That's for a catch basin for rainwater from the roof. There's a big basin over there that's going to have a pump in it. So if there happens to ever be rain in Utah and we have some water in there, we can reuse that instead of having to pull from culinary water. If that's the case, you just have to unhook it and hook it to the new one. Good to go. So the rest of the place, pretty easy because there's no grass, so you don't have to worry about that. It's all drip line. It's all the net FM drip line, which means the emitters are inside the pipe. It's run to all these plants. We have a valve box right here that we can take a look at. So this one you see, it's just got the valve, it's got a filter. If you ever see that this little thing is red, that means the filter is dirty. So you just unscrew the top, pull the filter out, tap it down, get the dirt out, put it back in, you're good to go. Sometimes they're kind of fickle sometimes and they'll be red even though they're not dirty, but usually they're pretty good. Each valve will have a shutoff on the front, so if you ever have to take the valve out to clean it, you just turn that ball valve off, pop it out, clean it out, good to go. So we'll just walk this way. We'll kind of walk, I guess, around the property. So this storm drain is actually the catch basin for the rainwater. We ran a pipe over into it, and somebody else is supposed to hook a pump up, so I don't know if that part's been done yet, but if that's the case, it's done, then it's just a matter of switching over there as we talked about before, but that's that catch basin there as far as for that rainwater. So that first valve that we showed runs the entire west side of the property, the west side of the parking lot. We've got another valve right up here that we're going to go to, and that runs up against the building on the west side. She's got this one right here. That just runs everything on the west side of the building, the east side of the parking lot. Okay. And I think our last valves are just right over here. That runs everything else. So We got these last two right here. One of this one right here runs the basketball court in the east side of the building. That runs all of that. And it's actually shut off at the moment. So turn that back on because that's not what we want. So, and then this one runs, this one runs this side here and kind of this, I guess the southeast side of the parking lot. And that runs that there, so. And then I believe right here is probably either a quick coupler. Yep. So you have a quick coupler and we can get you a quick coupler key. That's the way you have access if you need to put a hose in and want to use that water. Rather than being on the building, you put the quick coupler key in, crank it open to the right, and then just hook a hose up to it. You have water. If you ever need it to water anything, hose off parking lot, whatever, you've got that there. So as we make our way over here to the basketball court, there's one junction box, which is junction box just where all the wires accumulated, where we pull them all to, and then we just stop there, and then we had to pull the rest of the clock. So it's just right here, right by the basketball court. Just pull those out, you can see where we've junctioned all the wires together. So these ran all the way back to the valves, to here, and then from this point, they just home run all the way back to the clock on the east side. So this is our irrigation timer. It's a Hunter I-Core. We should have some manuals in these boxes if you need those for any reason, but it's got the key in there and you can lock it if you want, take it out, or whatever the case may be. Pretty simple clock. Right now it's just set to run. That just means it's set on auto. Should run through the whole system. Water right now you've got set up that most of the station, every other station besides one is running every other day right now. Everything's looking pretty good, but we had this back station that was, plants were struggling, so we've got that going every day for a while longer just to make sure those are gonna end up being good. Pretty simple. You just turn the knob and it'll tell you what you gotta do, so that's date and time. You have the program start time, so program A starts at 4 in the morning. If you need to see a second program, so there's A, B, C, and D, hit program, that's program B, that starts at 10 p.m. So program A is the whole building, everything that will run on program A. Program B is where we've set up for this station on the east side to run more than every other day right now until the plants recover a little bit. After that, so you've got that set up. If you need to do multiple start times to start the whole system multiple times, you just click to the right and left, you get 2, 3, 4. You can change the start times if you need them on that. You go next to the next one, set station run time. So this shows you all the stations. There's only 6 stations on the whole project. Station 1 is actually the raised planter beds on the south side of the parking lot. So there's no time on that because there's nothing there. There's no reason to water that, have water just building up in the dirt and things. But every other station, so this is program B, so you see we got station 6 is running for an hour and a half every day. If we click through here, you see D, there's no times on those because we don't have anything there. Now we go back to program A. So program A is your main program, that's how it'll be on, is program A. Station 1, no times, that's raised planter beds. And then everything else is running for an hour, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. And that's running every other day right now. So if you need to set the days to water, click it down one more to where it says set days to water. You can see we've got it running on an interval of just every other day, 1 day. So it'll water 1 day, miss the next day, be good to go. If you go to program B, which is this other zone we're doing, you can see we've checked off every day, so it's running every day on that one. You can set it up to where, go back here, you can set it up to do odd or even days if you want to do it that way, or you can actually change your intervals. See how that changes there to every 2 days, every 3 days, 4 days, etc. To kind of customize it however you want. Some of these things you won't really have to worry about is the pump operation or the seasonal adjustment. It shouldn't matter too much. And then if you need to run anything manually, which we actually have a zone running manually right now, I started. We'll show you how to do that. You turn the system off. Once that stops blinking, that means the system's off. There's no water running anywhere, or shouldn't be. If there is, we need to go back to the backflow, turn it off. If you need to manually operate a valve from the clock or a program, you turn it to manual operation right here. You have manual program, which if you do that and start it, it'll run every valve that's programmed on that program. Otherwise, you can go down to manual station. You click the plus, Pick whatever station you want to run. We can say 6 right now. Hit the plus to add time to it. Let's go 30 minutes on that one. And then you just turn it to run, and it's now running program 6. Outside of that, everything else should be good to go. There is a rain sensor that'll sense if it does rain. It won't run the clock, won't run the water because it's not necessary. But other than that, that should be pretty simple. If you pop open the back, you can see where we've run the wire inside that ran from that junction box to here. You have a blue wire, that's the spare wire, so in case there's ever an issue with a valve not sending a signal to the clock, then you can go and use the spare wire instead. That's why we run that one. The white wire is your common wire. That's what actually provides power to everything. That runs to every valve and in one continual loop to every valve. That's one white wire, and that's what gets power from here and sends it to the valves, and the valve sends the signal back through the colored wires. So other than that, you're just plugged in right here and you should be good to go.
So to recall, you put the FEOK1 key in here. You're going to call it to on, calls it, puts it on phase 1 fire service. You'll see the fire hat come on, disables the hall calls for the rest of the building. Now it's right up to the firefighters have control of it. So when that is on, you can come in here. You guys will never do phase 2. This is more for firefighter operation, but they will have access. Mostly I want the building to be familiar with phase 1 out in the hall. So really I don't want anybody in that particular section right there. So we'll take it off.
So if they've had a fire incident, that's how they would say bring it back.
Yeah, so if smoke heads are very common, especially during construction, I see that it's blocked off. So if something were to trigger the smoke head, the customer would have with this FEOK1 key, assuming the panel's reset, your smoke head panel's reset, they can come over here and put it to reset and then put it back to off, and it'll extinguish your fireman's hat, and then you should be back in service. And that's for any nuisance alarms or anything like that. But your fire panel has to be clear of any faults from smoke heads. So very, very good to have that FEOK1 key. It'll save you a lot of nuisance alarms. So. And then in here for independent service, if you have a lot of move-ins or anything like that, this would be good to know. You could put it on independent service. So Kone 2 key will unlock this hatch door, and then this switch right here is independent service. If you were to put that on, now it takes the hall calls out. Nobody can call it from the landing, but whoever is the operator inside the car can run it to any floor. It holds the doors open. That way the door's not trying to close on you when you're loading a refrigerator or a couch, something like that in here. Very good to have. It'll save you all kinds of problems with doors being hit. But just know it's going to take the rest of the building out of operation on the elevator. Just the person in the car has control of the elevator. So that is another one. That is Kone 2 to give you access to this box. You also have your fan control and light control. Stop right here if you were going to shut it down for any particular servicing or anything like that. The building needed to, say, if this was carpeted inside, they needed to do something or extensive cap cleaning, they can key it to stop. It'll shut it down. And I believe that is Kone 1. That is key Kone 1. And that should cover all the keys that you guys are going to have.
All right, so I'm Glenn Williams. I'm the service supervisor for Kone Elevator. So I'll be talking more about your contract and kind of what you should do if you need a service call. So during the first year after the warranty service, that first year, we call it free service. So you have regular time call outs, meaning that you're not billed for a call out if it's a mechanical issue on the elevator. Any overtime call outs and that you will be billed overtime if we're called out on a weekend or after 5 o'clock on weekdays. So again, anything that would be cause of the elevator would not be billable. Things such as rocks in the door tracks or a door hit, something like that. Fire service, how you talk to fire service, those things are not preventable by maintenance, so those are billable call outs if you call them out. If you do have a service call, I'd ask that you probably look at a couple minor things, like say, look at your door tracks and make sure that there's no rocks or dirt or anything in those door tracks that's preventing the door from closing properly. And just those type things to kind of prevent from having a billable call out. Our service call number is 877-276-8691. You can call that, give them the name of the building, the address, or any of that, and they'll be able to track it back and dispatch a service tech out to you. So,
all right, so here we have our basic controls of our thermostats. We have our cool, off, and heat. You can just push that up if you want it. AC is cool, off, you don't want any operation. Heat, you want it a little bit warmer. Your fan on and auto. Fan on is just your fan continuously running. The fan auto, it will only kick on when you have a call for cooling or heating. If you set it to a temperature and it decides it wants to not get there at the moment, so we can come here, set it to 74, we can hit our hold, and then it will come down into its time there. If we want to do our run is a schedule. We'd come up here into our set, we can set our time, our day, and then our schedule for it. And then if somebody wants to leave, we would hit run and it will turn off, just run through whatever scheduling that is set. Or if we just want to maintain a constant temperature, we'd find our temperature and we would hit hold. 6 screws here. And this is where you can access the unit itself. Now we have this operating control box that's right here. This is where the thermostat is telling it to come through. If we ever come across something where you're not getting heating or cooling to come through, this box will tell you most everything you'd want to know. So a couple Phillips screwdrivers, pop it off, and there is a list of codes that will tell you of what could possibly be wrong. If it's not, a normal operation is 0, 1, and 0, 2. 0, 1 meaning cold, cooling, 0, 2 meaning heat. If it shows anything other than that, then there is an issue with it. If you notice anything other than those 2 codes, feel free to give us a call and we'll come out and diagnose your system for you.
Any kind of filters or anything in here they need to know about?
Filters are outside here. That is just a single filter grill. It looks like it's a 16 by 25. And then these will just, 2 tabs, you can pull right out. And then it slides up, the filter will just pop right out. Okay, so these units here are ductless units we have installed in the studio apartments. Well, here we have, here's where your filters would be. This panel just will pop right up. And these are your filters. These are on a track. These just come right out. Water will clean these. And you're all right to, once you clean them down, you can just slide them right back through their tracks. And then just lock them right back into place. And then the cover will come back down and just locks right back into place. And then we have the same thermostat that controls all the units here. You have your same cooling, off, heating, fan, auto on, the set. Here we are, we see that it's 63 degrees in here. We want to go to 74. hit our hold button and it will maintain that 74 degrees. I believe these will pull, these units alone will pull the room down to about 54 degrees. We try to keep away from that because it will freeze up. And you'll notice you might have a little bit of water issues coming around, or ice buildup, forming around where the filters are. And we have the same control box and a cover. Here in the bathroom, we have this cover, so where we have the same, they're called an interface kit, so that we can use the thermostats to control these units. And a couple of screws will take the covers right off, and if you see any other code besides a 01 or a 02, then we have something we need to look into for it. These are all free floating, so right here, all the drains are just pushed through the wall here, and they're just catching into the sinks or the toilets.
Great, okay, awesome.
So they're tying into the existing plumbing. You might come across maybe one or two that might have an external pump, and then it's just pumping it up to the ceiling and then down into another existing plumbing line there.
Great, awesome.
So here we have 2 units in every corner that looks just like this, where are still the thermostat controlled. These thermostats are located just down the hallway, just a little past the fire door there. And these are still controlled off the thermostat. And then inside of your IT room here is where we have our control box that our thermostat wire is running off of. And it will do the exact same thing any of the other units do. This will tell you if you're not seeing a 1 or a 2, if you notice it's not heating or cooling, it's not a 1 or a 2, then there could be something that would require service that we could come out to take a look at for you. And then at the other end of the corridor, the other box is inside of your trash chute room. Great. And it does the same thing. You have 2 clips that just here on the front, you just push those in, and that will drop down, and that's where your filter is. And then the filter, just like the studios, you can come out and just run it through the sink for water, and it'll just wash all that, whatever's dirt or crud that's in the air. And then these also have a free flowing. They're tying into existing plumbing. So these do not have a pump to get the condensation that comes out from it.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, so these units, as soon as you come out the door, these are our corridor units. So it's one air conditioner that is supplying 2 head units from the corridors. So this would be pulling from the 2nd and the 3rd floor, just powering this one. We have our basic, you disconnect, you have a pull out to disconnect the power to it, and it will turn off inside as well as outside here. Because this is where we also have all of the controls to the inside. And then this one right here. And then these are our apartment units. So we have the same thing. They're all labeled. Just pull your disconnect out, and then now we have no power to this unit downstairs or up here. So if we needed to work on it, that's how we would take care of that. And then just put it back in the on position, close it up.
Is there anything else I need to know about these ones up here?
These kind of have a lot of working parts. Like I said, but those boxes downstairs will tell you, since they all communicate really good, the box downstairs will tell you if there is an issue, whether it's upstairs or downstairs, if whatever happens. So if these even become low on refrigerant, it will also state that it's low on its charge.